Tēnā koutou. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei webinar. Haven't got the Māori word for that yet. And my name is Inez from Indigenuity Limited, and I'm going to be doing a kōrero tonight on wills, prenups, and tangihana insurance, okay? So all of this is going to come from my own personal experience and what information I have here that I've gathered from my lawyers over the last few years. My personal disclaimer and professional disclaimer to you right now is that always before a will, before creating a will, starting a will, doing anything to do with a will, a prenup or koro contracting out agreement under the Relationships Property Act and tangihana insurance, you need to speak to and rely upon the advice of your lawyer, an appropriately experienced and qualified lawyer, okay? I'm going to be sharing with you from the point of view of a person who has had experience, both negative, positive, or otherwise, with wills, prenups, and tangihana insurance, okay? So that's what I'd like you to know first of all. Well, let's start with wills. My experience with a will came when I bought my first house here in New Zealand, in Rotorua, in 2013. I'd never had this kind of information or offer before when I was in Australia, but here in Aotearoa, when I bought my first house, they said to me that it was a free service, and included was to do my will for me. So I thought, oh, you know, some people think that that's quite morbid to be wanting to do a will or something like that, especially when you're younger or not old. We all think of it as being for older people, but because it was free, I decided to go with it and let them, do my will for me. Now, this will was on a type of questionnaire. It was probably about 4 pages long or so. I filled out some questions, filled out answers to the questions, and then from there they constructed a will for me. Now, what I didn't realise is the tikanga, or the good practice for will, is to update it every time there is something that changes. So we bought that house in 2013, and our lawyer offered to do our will for us for free. You can pay people to do your will, but often lawyers, I didn't realise, and like to be able to offer to do your will for free, because when it comes to the unfortunate scenario that you might pass away, they've done your will, they hold your will, then obviously they can benefit. Well, if they have your will and they become your lawyer to make sure that your will is executed correctly, there's fees involved with that, and either your family pays the fees or your estate pays the fee. When the estate pays the fee, that means things like the bill that they charge, that the lawyer charges, comes out of the sale of your property or your settlement of your KiwiSaver. So it comes out of money that you, the person, would have ready to divvy up amongst all your beneficiaries. So the people who are going to get your money when you pass away. And obviously there's a benefit to them if they just kind of tag on the service of doing your will to doing your settlement for your property. So being your solicitor for the sale or purchase of your property. So what does that mean? That means you should use it as often as you can and get it updated as often as you can. That's my belief, especially if they are offering to do it for free. And unless it's really complicated, there's no reason, it doesn't take them much effort to have to update it for you. For myself, let's speak for me. 2013, I had my first will done, and I just filled out the checklist. It was things like, who did I want to inherit my estate, my properties, my money, my jewellery. I also had in there, what did I want to have happen for when I passed away, and it's about 5 or 6 pages or something. Here is my actual will right here. We have 1, 2, okay, one is 2 pages, but that's because I only have 2 children. I don't have many assets apart from, you know, property. I have special jewels or heirlooms or taonga that I want to go to certain people or my sons. And I'm happy to just tell you what is in mine. Just there are 6 clauses. My one goes like this. So I revoke all earlier wills. So obviously that means if everything, if there are any other wills, the latest one, the latest date becomes the most recent. I appoint, and I've named 2 people as my executors to be my executor and trustee. But if so-and-so is unwilling or unable to act or dies before me, then I appoint the next person to be my executor or my trustee. I direct that any suitable part of my body be used for grafting or transplant purposes. That's my own personal choice. Okay, and I wanted to put it in here because I know that it's opposite to what other members of my family may believe is correct, is tika, you know. But hey, this is my choice, so I wanted to be expressly say it. I have had a lawyer tell me that you can't put that into your will because by the time they read your will, you're in the ground. But hey, the second lawyer who updated mine decided to just do what I asked her to do and put it in my will. If so-and-so dies before me, I appoint my brother and my sister-in-law to be guardians of my children. I give my engagement ring from my etc. to the son, and then my gold cross engraved with this to my next son. Any shares in property I give to a trust. So my trustee shall hold the rest of my estate, my money or the sale of my property or anything I get, you know, in my lifetime, and set up a trust, that's basically what it says, to pay all my debts and duty, executorship and administration expenses. Remember what I said about how does the lawyer get paid once you passed away? Well, if they're the ones holding your will, then they get obviously they can execute the administration. To transfer the rest of my estate equally among my children who are living at my death and reaching the age of 30 years. However, if any of them dies before me or before reaching the age of 30 years, leaving a child or children living at my death, then that child will take, or those children will take equally the share their parent would otherwise have taken. My trustee may invest and deal with my estate as freely as if he were beneficially entitled. This power includes the right to apply for the benefit of any minor beneficiary, any part of their income or capital, etc. I direct that the firm shall be employed as solicitors in proving my will and in transacting any legal business arising from it. So you see what I mean? A will does not have to be ultra complicated. That was 8 points, 2 written pages and 1 cover page. Then they wrap it and they put it in a nice cover for me with a bow. They hold 1 copy and I have a special copy, and I tell my executors where I put it. I also emailed a copy to all of my family. None of them liked it. None of them liked me sending that. But you know what? I've also not liked it. Nobody likes it when you are the family member left behind having to work everything out. Some points I want to make for you. How did I choose the executors of my will? My executors are not related to me by blood. I did that because I didn't want there to be any potential bias of sometimes people you love are your whānau, right? But they don't necessarily share the same values as you. For example, me being a donor or grafting that's my desire. Me wanting to leave specific items to this son and one to this son, those are my desires based on what me and the other parent have decided, etc., right? And I've chosen somebody who knows me, I feel believes my values. I believe, doesn't have any motivation to collect on what I've left in my will, but is also young enough to be around. I also have a backup executor. So that means if something happens to the other person, my backup person is there. Now, the backup person is actually not even a blood-related relative. I wouldn't even say that we hang out, but I felt that they were somebody who has been aware of me or known me all my life, so they're around about my age. They have a good standing in the community, where they don't have to be a cop or a legal person, but they could be a teacher, a principal, someone like that. And someone that I know we can find, over a lifetime of, say, I lose this and forget to update it 30 years later, we should be able to find them somehow. And I've named that person and asked them if they could be my executor. And every time I see him, I remind him. And he's probably like, you're one weird chick. But for me, it's good tikanga. I know that there's somebody impartial and independent of my whānau, so that everything that I write in my will is just done the way I want it, rather than there be any interpretation of what Inez might have wanted, because there's a whānau member who could potentially benefit from their decision. Because you've got to remember that, say, for example, if you were had $300,000 or a house, that house can be sold. This is very simplistic. The money will pay for the agent's fees. There'll be some money for the lawyers. There'll be money all over the place. And what's left would be left for the beneficiaries, and the executor has the power, based on the law and what you put in your will, to spend it as they see fit, or to look after the children, or for education purposes, or what have you, as they see fit. And I want to know that I can trust these people, etc. Okay, so choose people carefully. Don't always choose your other half. I think this is my personal advice. This is not my legal advice. So you get legal advice first from your lawyer, solicitor, whoever. My advice for me, or people who want to be my friends and ask me my opinion, is that don't automatically go for someone who's related to you, or your husband, or your wife, or your brother, or your sister, okay? As you can see, I've been very specific about who I would like to look after my kids if something happens to me. Obviously, if you are not together with the father or the mother, you don't necessarily, what you write in here doesn't necessarily get made gospel, right? Because there's other things that come into play. But discuss that with your other half. Who should look after the children if both of us, something happens? Discuss these things, write them down. So without babbling on, I get mine updated every time there's a change. So that's any time I sell my property, I buy another one. I had a relationship, and then I finished that relationship, and I've recently started, recently in the last, recent times, I have a new tane, and we're about to look at buying our new house. So I have updated this since 2014 3 times, and my next time is coming up, okay? So I will be going on my 4th time. So anytime there's a major change, like I said, to update is quite simple. Take the old will, just use that as a template, cross out what you don't want, change names that you don't want, change or add other desires, like what other points you want to make. Like you might now have a bit more money or a bit more property. You might have more kids. You might have more calls. You might not like the last trustee. Just update it on here, write it on some paper, give it to your lawyer, and then they put it into legalese. They put it into legal speak, right? Hasn't costed me anything so far. But always get a quote and always ask. Now, my mum went to do her will. So 2 things about my mummy. My mum died in 2016. So when she got her will done, when she bought her whare, and what happened? She got hers done. She tried doing it through the public trust, or was it the public trust or the guardian trust? Okay. Now, that was free, but then somehow she got charged. And then once she got locked in with them, she kept getting these charges, little charges that she wasn't really happy about, okay? So always look at the fine print, always ask your trustee or your lawyer what the charges will be, how much it will be to update it, etc. Okay, you don't want to get stuck with a bill or a will that you don't want, that you don't like, with people who are going to execute your will or administrate your will and make your family really unhappy, okay? Choose lawyers you like, who you're used to, and whose fees are going to be reasonable. Because if you're going to choose a $350 an hour or $200 an hour lawyer, that's great, so long as they understand exactly what you want and they're really good value. Because those are the kind of fees that you'll be paying afterwards, okay? So what we learned with my mum, is that she was, she was sick, so she didn't quite get her will updated. So in the last 2 weeks, we were lucky enough that she was still, she was still aware and everything. So we bought her a $20 will pack, which was like from Wickles or Paper Plus, something like that. You can actually buy, it's about $20, and it's a booklet, and it has all the questions that you need to ask, and you fill it out, you write it out. And that was what we did for her, because we didn't have time. She couldn't get out of the house to go and see her lawyer. Don't get to that point, but if you are at that point, it was better than nothing, okay? So $20, a will booklet. I'll be able to give you a link or something where you might be able to buy them online, and I will put that in the comment box at the bottom of this video at the end. $20 was hers. We filled it out. It did add on some time to how quickly it took for the will to be executed and for probate to occur. From when Mum passed away, it took 12 months for us to be able to have permission and be able to sell her home, which was what she wanted. She wanted her home sold and then used to, split up the funds. Our solicitor said that when you do the homemade one, sometimes the way you word it, because it's not in legalese, it's not in legal speak, there can be interpretation to what was meant, and therefore when it goes before the judge, they may allow more time before you're allowed to take any action to ensure that every whānau member who might want to object has a chance to have their say. Whereas when you have it done like mine, which is all in legal speak, it's all in legalese, there's no doubt about what each clause means. Does that make sense? And you've had independent advice at every turn. So just keep that in mind. It can take you more time that way if you have a handwritten one, but at least one is better than nothing. My thinking is, the reason why I get mine done updated is that why leave that to chance? Why leave the whānau with the risk of having no will? At least a slightly outdated will is better than no will, or a will that you wrote out in the last minute and then it can be objected to and tested in court and take a long time. So ours went really smoothly. We had no objections, whānau all agreed, and that still took, from when Mum passed away, took 12 months for any KiwiSaver, a house to be sold and any funds to be distributed. Okay? So that's what my experience has been with wills. From when the person passes away, even if there's a current will, it normally takes at least 6 months, because I've had more than one whānau member, right? More than 6 months. So I'm going to put a link down bottom at the end. That's wills. That's my experience with wills. Take home message. Don't leave it to fate. Don't leave it to chance. Just go and at the very least get yourself a $20 one. Fill that out. Take it along to a solicitor, your solicitor, or any solicitor if you want, and get it put into a format. Update it every year or every time there's a major event. Having a child, getting married, getting divorced, selling a house, okay? So as you may be very much aware, I'm fairly transparent and open about my trials and tribulations in life that I've had in relationships. Being a fun-loving Sagittarius girl, you know, I've just been very trusting and just hedge first in situations. And in the end, have had some separations. I've learned a lot about the Relationship Property Act. Let's say that. What I have learnt and take-home message is that if you don't write it down, if you don't agree beforehand, the law says, the Relationship Property Act in New Zealand says that you both have 50-50 of the assets and the debts of that were acquired during the time of the relationship, okay? That sounds really fair, but here's a scenario for Māori that I would like to, specifically for Māori, this is what I think would apply. Māori land, whenua Māori, sweet as. There's rules and that if you aren't, don't whakapapa to the land, you can't have a claim, all that kind of thing. But imagine if a property isn't actually whenua Māori under law, it's general title, but it has a whakapapa meaning to it for you, and it has, you have a connection to it because it's whānau land or it's a whānau house, but it's not protected by te ture whenua Māori, or a will, or what we call a contracting out agreement, which is like a prenup, but in Aotearoa it's called a contracting out agreement, then you can have claim to that from each other. Guess what else you can have claim to? You can share each other's KiwiSaver, you can share each other's superannuation, and you can have claim to each other's debt as well. So here's a scenario. You become, say you're a stay-at-home mum or stay-at-home dad, and the other person goes to work and earns all the income. And say for 5 or 10 years you didn't earn any income, but the law protects you and says that you still contributed to the well-being and the income of the whānau, and that you have access to 50% of everything that came out of that relationship. That's 50% of the property, the cash, the vehicles, the assets, and 50% of the debts. And you can share, and may have to share, in their KiwiSaver or their superannuation, the other person who was working. But if they had to get a student loan in order to create the job that they have, then you may have to have claim to that as well, 50-50. From what I have observed and what I have experienced, the 50-50 rule that sounds very fair isn't actually that fair, right? So without disclosing things, you end up spending a lot of money and racking up a lot of legal bills, proving to each other's lawyers or the court, if it gets to that point, who is more right than the other. Now, lawyers can cost $175 to $350 more per hour, and if you don't have legal aid, which is, there's a limit and it's below 30,000, I'm not sure what that limit is, so you have to pay for that. Now, if you can't afford to pay for that, those legal bills and money, it will come out of the sale of the house, the bank accounts, all those kinds of things. What I have noticed was a lot of people just leave it to chance and they just either walk away. They can't afford to either go for the legal battle, or they are real angry and they find a way to pay those legal bills just to get at each other. Either way, it is not worth it. So this time, now that I'm gone into a new relationship, and if you're watching, honey, thank you for letting me share this, we decided that we just approached my lawyer and said, can we have a prenup? That is because we've come into this as older people with children from other relationships with different jobs, different student loan backgrounds, home ownership backgrounds, income backgrounds, and everything. And obviously, people have opinions on the outside about who is in for what, that kind of thing. To shut that down, we asked for a prenup from my lawyer, and they said, oh, it's not called a prenup in Aotearoa, it's called a contracting out agreement. So contracting out under the Property Relationships Act. That means that everything is 50-50 unless you write a contract between each other that says otherwise. To tell you simply, I then said, what do I have to do to get the format, the template to do this right? Well, you can either ask Uncle Google, or I just asked my solicitor, and she sent me a checklist. 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of questions that when I answer the question, I send it back, and they will write me up this contract that we both sign. Now, she can send it to his lawyer, or if we're happy to just agree to it between ourselves, we can do that. You know, get your legal advice specifically for your situation. And this is what applies to me. But the property checklist, and I'm going to share this with you with a link down below as well. Specify your personal identification and witness your motivation for creating the contracting out agreement. What assets do you wish to protect? When did the relationship marriage commence? Are there children from the relationship? Are there children from previous relationships? And separate property of what did you bring, what did I bring to the relationship, and what did my Tāne bring to the relationship? Write them all down. Insurances, investments, motor vehicles, superannuation, student loans, bonus bonds. Is there a relationship property? So that means, is there something that you guys, so you both bought together your separate property and debts, okay, together. When did you come together with those? Are you wanting to make sure that those stay separate if the relationship ever ends? Then there are, what things have you bought or acquired together since the beginning of your relationship? And you have an agreement on that. That's what this is about. It's saying, let's talk about it up front. This is what we've bought in this time, so this stuff will be shared. Or 50-50, how is it going to be divvied up? You're going to get this property, you're going to get this furniture, you're going to have these shares, you're going to keep your student loan, and I'll keep my student loan, you know. How have you had the value of those assessed? And if there is just some questions around how have you worked out what everything's worth, like how do you know that the house is worth that, and how do you know that the vehicle and the collection is worth that? To make sure that it's all fair. How is the ownership of the joint assets currently structured? So if you've watched any of my other videos before, you can own things together jointly, so the whole pie together, or you can say 50% of the pie is for her and 50% of the pie is for him. Or it might be, I'll have 30% of the pie and you have 50% of the pie, or 70% of the pie. Okay, as long as it's all up front and you've agreed. The separate debts of specifying what your debts are that you keep and I keep, and relationship debts. Do you want it to go into, do you have a family trust, and how have you made that decision? Have you updated your will? Do you have enduring powers of attorney, and have you received or expect to receive any inheritance? Okay, so it's about putting a stake in the ground about what you've come together with and what you're willing to go away from each other with if, you know, the unfortunate happens. For us, it's given us peace of mind. It's meant that we're together to be together rather than to be together and have anybody wonder or suggest that we might be together for asset reasons, for income reasons, for convenience reasons, you know. And I felt like a bit whakama, to be honest. I felt that it was like, I was like, oh, shame, I don't know how to suggest this or ask if we can do this. But it wasn't until, you know, a few people started saying to me, you know, oh, just be careful, is that person treating you like this and stuff. I knew and feel that that wasn't the case, but I needed to eliminate that so that the sanctity of our relationship was protected by us being able to say, oh, Kyle, it doesn't have to be worried about, we've got an agreement on that. Oh, it stops all the little, you know, the naysayers, it stops all the cordial and the talk and the gossip, and it means that you can focus on being together. That's my opinion, that's my experience. I will let you know how much that costs to get that done, but it'll probably cost me about $175 per hour. And I don't know, I'm willing to pay up to $500-600 or $1,000 to have this sorted out correctly. Invest in your legal status. I have learned that now, having come through and had, I think, 2 major relationships and had houses involved with that. And on the other side, have had partners who have been at the mercy of that from their past relationships, and it really affected our relationship because it became a struggle with money, etc. So just let's get that all out of the way. Now, my last little topic was tangihana insurance. So there are many, you can get really complicated or ring up a company, an insurance company, and get a quote. Essentially, you need to remember that the older you get before you put in place tangihana insurance, the higher the cost will be. Why? Because you're becoming more likely to die. Is it really, in a nutshell? So at my age, $10,000 cover, when I got in with my insurance, now I use Credit Union Central. They're a central credit union based in Rotorua, Whakatane, Kawero, so the central North Island. And the credit unions have sort of like group insurance. I got mine through them. It was $10,000 and it cost me like $4.50 a week. So about $16, $17 a month. That's nothing. And I have been on that for 4 years. It's very simple. It's basically somebody proves that you passed away with a death certificate or a newspaper clipping or whatever, and as long as it's satisfactory, they'll write you a check immediately for the tangi, for the funeral expenses. And that cost me $16. I'm 36 and otherwise healthy. When I went to look for the same cover for my koro, who was in his 70s or 80s at the time, for my mum who's in her 50s, the prices got a lot higher. I think close to $40 or $50 a week. I think the take-home message from and you need to get appropriate, independent and professional insurance advice from an insurance broker or an insurance specialist, to make sure that the policy you're getting covers everything you need. Let's put it this way, this isn't the same as life insurance, okay, that can be quite pricey, and it's based on a number of different factors. It's like, if you die, this is how much we'll give for your tangi, for your funeral. And I believe, from what I understand, the later you leave that before you enter in for the first time into tangi insurance, the premium that you pay is probably going to go up higher and faster than if you get in young and you just continually pay it from a young age. It just goes up slightly all the time. It eventually goes up, but it doesn't start at go straight to $50 a week or $200 a week. It starts off at $4, and then you get in earlier and sooner. I went with my local credit union because they're local, it's simple, it's affordable, and it wasn't complicated for me to understand. All I wanted was to have enough money available for my whānau to at least cover the marae, the tangihana, the party, the casket or whatever. Yeah. And I thought 10 grand would do that. I want to tell you that also in my will, going back from tangihana, I put in here, subject to this request, I direct that my body be buried, and I express this to be buried in this place with a coffin of this price level, with a headstone like this, with a plaque marked like this, and my trustee or executor may spend as much as they wish reasonably on specify that shiz. Specify it. Tell people how you want it to be run. And not all people will say that can go in a will, because by the time the will was read out or found, you're way down. But like I said, I had it put in there, and then as soon as it gets updated, I email to my mum, my dad, call all my siblings and my partner, and I give copies to everybody. Just the once. Be in control of your love, your relationships, your assets, how those are going to be split up, and when you leave this world, be in control. You have the choice. So I'm going to put those any links that I think might be helpful, and a copy of my version of the checklist, and where I think you can get some online will packs for, which, like I said, I believe you should use the will pack, but then take it to a lawyer to have it put into proper legal speak for you. Ka pai. I'm sorry I ramble on, but I wanted to share with you what I have done, and these have made a massive impact to how I feel, my confidence about going into a new relationship, my confidence about having a blended family, because I have 2 children who live with their, their papa, new whānau and mum. I have stepchildren from before and after and now, so blended families can work, but let's just put it down. Let's just make it, set it in stone, and then you can just carry on being happy and living life, I reckon. Let's change the way things happen amongst us Māori, whānau Māori. We don't have to leave everything to chance anymore. We can be specific and have our own mana motuhake about, how all these things work out for ourselves. Nō reira, pō Māori e whānau, I hope you have found something useful from this. And share and subscribe this video if you found any value, and I'll let you know what our next topic is for webinars and YouTube videos. Pō Māori everyone.